Next one is regression analysis. Regression analysis is a statistical method used to find the best fitted line that shows the relationship between the two variables. The best fitted line with the estimated value of A and B is called an estimated regression model or regression line, expressed as Y sama dengan A plus BX. So, if you plot a scatter diagram, okay, we can conclude that ataupun we can see that there exists a positive relationship because as X increases, Y tends to increase. If you nak cari the strength of the correlation, you use correlation analysis. But if I want to find a line, satu garisan, that best fitted this relationship, this line, you have to use regression analysis. If you want a line that best represent the relationship, okay, kita nak cari satu garisan, satu garis lurus yang menggambarkan hubungan X dengan Y, kita kena gunakan regression analysis. So this line, nama dia regression line ataupun regression equation ataupun sometimes kita panggil best fitted line or least square line, where X is your independent variable, Y is your dependent variable, A is your y-intercept, and B is your slope. So A adalah y-intercept, this one is A. Okay, so the purpose of the regression line is to enable the researcher to see the trend and make prediction on the basis of the data. So two methods are normally used. Kita guna approximation ataupun a more accurate way of finding the line is by using the least square method. So kita boleh gunakan LSM untuk cari regression line. Okay, so for the types of regression line, we have simple linear regression and also multiple linear regression. Since kita tengah tengok chapter for bivariate analysis, we are going to focus on simple linear regression, where dalam simple linear regression analysis, kita analyze the relationship between one dependent and one independent variables only. So, by using the least square method, the value of A and B in the regression line Y sama dengan A plus BX can be calculated using the formula given. So, you don't have to worry about the formula. You don't have to memorize, okay, because the formula will be given in your exam, but you must make sure that you know how to use, where to substitute, to make sure that you will get the correct answer. So here, I do believe that you all are familiar with the summation of xy, summation of x, and etc. So once you get the value of B and A, substitute masuk dalam this equation. So most of the calculation, okay, will be done by using calculator. You have to key in all the data inside the in your calculator and just keluarkan value from there. So later on, saya akan bagi awak link to a video on how to key in your data ke dalam calculator. So most of the time, question will ask you to interpret your regression coefficient. So your regression coefficient will be A and B. So, A is your y-intercept. Apa maksud y-intercept? Y-intercept is the point where the line crosses the vertical y-axis. Means that y-intercept is the value of x. Value of y when x equal to 0. So again, this is your y-intercept A, where your x sama dengan 0, your y equal to 8. So y-intercept is a value of y when x equal to 0. Okay, so here ada state dekat sini. It is simply the value of dependent variable y when independent variable x equal to 0. Okay, relevant jika x sama dengan 0 is in the range of the dataset. Okay, there is no practical meaning if x sama dengan 0 is not in the range of the dataset. B pula is your slope coefficient. So B is actually the amount of change in your dependent variable y when a unit increase in your independent variable x. Positive value of B means when x increase by 1 unit, y will increase by b units. A negative value of b means that when x increase by 1 unit, y will decrease by b units. Okay, so b dekat sini, dia punya symbol positive or negative indicates the direction of the relationship. Right? And b represent the amount of changes when x increase by a unit. Next is the coefficient of determination. The coefficient of determination is the ratio of the explained variation to the total variation denoted by r squared and always expressed as percentage. For a simple linear regression, okay, coefficient of determination is the square of the correlation coefficient R. So yang tadi kita calculate Pearson product moment correlation coefficient R tu, untuk cari coefficient of determination, we simply square the R to get the coefficient of determination. So here, if the correlation coefficient R is 0.91, then the coefficient of determination is 0.91 square. So you dapat 0.8281. But normally when we interpret the value, kita interpret in terms of percentage. So R squared 0.8281 means that 82.81% of the total variation in dependent variable y can be explained by the variation in independent variable x. So if you have a total of 100 observation, only 82% of the total variation can be explained by the variation of x. So now we are going to look at some example from the SPSS output. So here is a scatter diagram example from the SPSS output. So in your x-axis here is typing speed. So this is your independent variable, and time is your dependent variable y. So as you can see here, there is a negative relationship exists between these two variables. And this is another output, where in this output, kita boleh dapatkan the coefficient of determination R squared and also your regression equation. So R here, okay, this red color R equivalent to 0.940 is your Pearson product moment correlation coefficient R, and the green box is your R squared. Okay, so your R is 0.940. Thus, your R squared you kuasa 2 kan. So, you dapat 0.884. And normally explain in percentage. From the second table, we can see that you can find your y-intercept A, the pink color. A is 14.086. Your slope coefficient is -1, -0.137. And typing speed here is your independent variable. So in our syllabus, we are only looking at these 5 values. Okay. So if the question asks you to forecast, okay, trying to determine the value of dependent variable y given a value of independent x. So we are going to forecast dependent variable y by using the value of x given, using your regression line y sama dengan a plus bx, where y is your dependent variable and x is your independent variable. A is your y-intercept and b is your slope coefficient. So we can forecast the value of y given x by substituting the value of x into the equation. So let's look at an example. So table 9 gives the information on the income and charitable contribution in 2015 for a random sample of 10 households, while the scatter diagram is shown in figure 1 and the SPSS output are given in table 10 and 11. So before we look at the question, okay, kita tengok dulu table yang dibagi. From the table, we have two variables, income and charitable contributions. So before we proceed, you should identify which variable is which one is dependent and which one is dependent variable. So here, logically, your charitable contribution, how much you can contribute, depends on your income. Charitable contribution depends on your income. Depends, so charitable contribution jadi Y, income jadi X. Always alert dengan unit. Thousand of RM, hundreds of RM. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 pet observation. So here, your N is 10. You have 10 pet observation. 10 pasangan nombor. So, figure 1 is the scatter diagram of incomes and charitable contribution of 10 households. So X here should be your income and Y here should be our charitable contribution. And from the scatter plot, we can see that there exists a positive linear correlation between income and charitable contribution. Because here, as you can see, as X increases, Y tends to increase. As X increases, Y tends to increase. Positive relationship between the two variables. So from this output pula, we can see that you ada your R. So this one is your Pearson correlation coefficient. this one is your coefficient of determination. And then we have your income here. This is your independent variable, and your dependent variable is charitable contribution. This is your y-intercept, and this is your slope coefficient. So, based on the output, the following questions are from the scatter plot. Comment on the relationship between the two variables. So, simply look at the scatter diagram and conclude apa yang you dapat lihat. So, from the scatter plot before, kita nampak yang as x increases, y tends to increase. So, you can conclude that there exists a positive linear relationship between incomes and charitable contribution in 2015. So, you bagi tahu the direction. So, from the scatter plot, kita tahu there is a positive relationship. Why? Because we can see that as x increases, y tends to increase. Between these two variables, x is your income and y is your charitable contribution. So, dalam soalan B juga, dia minta you identify what is your independent and dependent variable. So, most of the time dalam soalan, dia ada bagi tahu. But if not, you need to think logically which one depends on which one. Okay, so here, charitable contribution depends on your income. The higher your income, the more you will contribute. Next question. Based on the data given, prove that the correlation coefficient is 0.946 and interpret the value. So, in this question, dia minta you prove. Okay, the value of R, this one, sama dengan 0.946. So, in case soalan tanya, first, you need to determine what is your x, what is your y. But since dalam soalan ini, tadi soalan B dia dah tanya, so x is your income, and y is your charitable contribution. Step 2, you need to key in everything dalam calculator. So, saya dah ajar dalam video yang saya bagi sebelum ni. Okay. Step 3, you must list all the summation dalam your answer paper, substitute dalam formula, and find the value of R. Last but not least, don't forget to interpret your R. Please make sure that dalam your interpretation, you have the strength of the relationship, the direction of the relationship, whether it's a positive or negative relationship, and between variable apa dengan variable apa. So, there is a strong. Kenapa kita kata strong? Because the magnitude of R is 0.946. Positive. Kenapa positive? Because you dapat R adalah positive between the variable of X and Y. Please make sure that you interpret in a complete sentence, okay, with the direction, the strength, and also what are the variables. State the coefficient of determination and interpret its value. So you can find the coefficient of determination from the table given, SPSS output. So R squared adalah 0.895. You can also calculate the value yourself. Okay, since R sama dengan 0.945, R squared, you simply kuasa duakan your R. So your interpretation, interpret your coefficient of determination in terms of percentage. So here, 89.5% of the variation in charitable contribution, Y, is determined by income. and another 10.5% is determined by other factors. So macam mana you dapat 10.5? 100% minus 89.5%. You dapat 10.5%. Find the value of X. So if you refer back to your SPSS output, X yang diminta adalah your B, slope coefficient. So B, your slope coefficient, adalah summation of XY minus summation of X multiply summation of Y bahagi dengan N, and then all bahagi dengan summation of X squared minus summation of X kuasa 2 bahagi dengan N. So substitute masuk all the value and dapatkan nilai X. Okay. If dia suruh you interpret X, so X ini sebenarnya your B is 0.4904. So macam mana nak interpret? As income increase by 1,000 ringgit, your charitable contribution will increase by 49.04 ringgit. Okay, because B yang awak dapat ni adalah a change in Y per unit increase in X. Per unit increase in X. Because X awak in 1000 RM, so 1 unit X increase bersamaan dengan RM1,000. Contribution awak will increase by 0.4904. Kenapa increase? Sebab B tu positif. Tapi kenapa saya convert jadi RM49? Sebab tadi your charitable contribution dalam unit 100 RM. So 49.04. Okay. Based on the SPSS output, write the complete regression equation. Interpret the slope in the context of the problem. Okay. So again dekat sini dia ada explain rupanya. Okay. So Y sama dengan negatif 22.536. This is A plus 0.4904. This is B and ada X kat sini tertinggal. So the slope coefficient is 0.4904. So your interpretation. Tadi saya bagi contoh as income increase RM1000, contribution increase RM4904. But you boleh terbalikkan juga, tak ada masalah. Dalam contoh ini, charitable contributions will increase by 49 ringgit and 4 sen as income increase by RM1000. Kenapa satu unit bersamaan dengan 1000? Because dalam soalan dia bagi tahu income in 1000, charitable contribution in 100 RM. Last one. Estimate the charitable contribution in 100 if income is 80,000. Income is your X. Okay, so X awak RM1000. So kalau dia kata 80,000, 80,000 ini bersamaan dengan 80,000. So dia suruh cari Y, that's why we substitute X with 80 instead of 80,000. So you dapat Y sama dengan 16.70. Tapi Y itu in 100,000. So Y sama dengan RM1,670. In example number 2, okay, a researcher desired to know whether the typing speed of a secretary is related to the time in hours that to it takes the secretary to learn to use a new word processing program. So the data and the SPSS output is given below. So dia bagi awak your data, speed word per minutes and time in hours. Okay. So dia kata dalam soalan tadi, typing speed related to time it takes. So speed X, time Y. Time study new word processing depends on speed per minute. This is your R, this is your R squared, this is your A, this is your B. So show that the Pearson correlation coefficient is 0.974. Again, if question asks you regarding this question, step 1, determine your X and Y. Step 2, key in dalam calculator dulu. Step 3, please list down all the summation. Step 4, substitute R. Step 5, find the value of R. Step 6, please make sure that you comment. Okay, very strong. Positive. Linear correlation between speed and time it takes. Name the statistics represented by W in the output. Interpret the context of the problem. So dalam output tu, W sebenarnya adalah coefficient of determination R, and to find coefficient of determination R squared, simply kuasa duakan your R. So interpret, and then dia suruh interpret the value of the slope. Okay, so here, the slope B, you dapat negative. Means that as X increases by 1 unit, Y will decrease by 0.137. Okay, so macam nak interpret? Time in hours that it takes for the secretary to learn to use the new processing program will decrease by 0.137 hours as the typing speed of a secretary increase by 1 word per minute. Okay? So, sebab B tu negative means that as X increases, Y decrease. X tu apa? Typing speed. Y tu apa? Time to learn new word processing. Dia suruh predict, okay, the time it will take the average secretary who has a typing speed of 70 words per minute to learn the new processing program. So based on the SPSS output, kita dapat the regression line SY sama dengan 14.086 tolak 0.137x. Thus, to predict the average time for a secretary who has a typing speed of 70 words per minute, simply substitute X with 70. And thus, you get Y sama dengan 4.496 hours. So I guess that's all for bivariate analysis. Please refer to another link on how to key in all the data in your calculator. So thank you everyone.